Test, test. Is it too late? Is this an after show by mistake? Well, we'll see. All right. For David the Gnome, anything. So, you know, I was out and about, and I realized after it had started that the debate started on Ethan Ralph's stream between E. Michael Jones and Adam Green, who we talked about last post-debate review. And what was the topic? Well, I guess yeah, I don't know. Should I go into it? Is it I don't know. It is late. I don't know. I'm sort of in a weird spot right now. Oh man. Yeah. 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 Let's just talk about it, because what am I going to do? Am I going to postpone this for another time? Let's just get into it. So, the debate today West Coast time, because I'm from California, between E. Michael Jones, Catholic, and Adam Green, I don't know, cringe. Not sure exactly what the identity is there, but of course, Adam Green is this conspiracy leaning content creator, and I was never wrapped up in that world. I don't really remember seeing him too much on Twitter, so it's not really my cup of tea. Now, E. Michael Jones, of course, established, and the last debate I remember, well, I can't remember the timeline. I remember I was having some trouble with the other debates, trying to remember. He debated Vosh on pornography, which I think people should go and check out if you haven't, or if you did, maybe rewatch, because I think that testimony from E. Michael Jones is valuable and always relevant moving forward. So, this debate was kind of similar to the Tyler Hamilton one. I'm trying to remember if there's really a major shift. Oh, I this one is kind of leaning towards like Adam Green's conspiracy side because according to Adam Green, he says that Christianity is a conspiracy. You guys are probably privy to the arguments. And in that debate, E. Michael Jones was taking him to task. This one, I don't remember the Vosh debate as far as delivery. It seemed like this one, E. Michael Jones was a lot looser from my perspective. So you might be able to get through this one a lot better. Although the substance from the Vosh one might be receptive to you guys. So it's one of those things. I'm of course I'm sympathetic to E. Michael Jones, and I know there's critiques against EMJ that I want to get into later on, but if I could just we're not going to go point for point because I don't think that that's really the way to do this. I just think, Adam Green is just somebody who it might have been someone in chat last time. Um, I just think we have bigger things to, or maybe not bigger, but there's definitely a lot of nuance to people that like in the blood sports circles. Well, how do I say this? I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, and I'm not talking about the. It's just Adam Green. This is not somebody that we have to worry about because I think we're a lot more in depth as far as our as far as what we're interested in. And for me personally, I'll yo, Paul Fahrenheit in chat. I love this guy. I'm glad this can be a nice refuge for your all-nighters. I kind of just want to talk about the critiques. There was one moment where Michael Jones was being interrupted and he said something to the effect of, "I'm not going to take all your time. I just want to finish my point." And I understand when in debates, as you guys probably know from the blood sports era, people get flustered and some people get mad sooner than they probably anticipate. And with a statement like that, I think that goes a long ways because a lot of people try to reduce E. Michael Jones to like an old man caricature. And I think there's a lot more to him to that. And I know some people have steered away, but I think there's something. And I have a timestamp here, which I don't think. What else? What else? So here. Should we do critiques? Oh, you're not. Oh, you're not Paul? Oh, whoops. Whoops. Okay. Okay. So there's critiques against E. Michael Jones. Some might say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to put words in people's mouths. Here's the thing. There's a divide. And let me just say, I think there's a false dichotomy that I think has given an identity crisis to the dissident right. The Sam Francis versus E. Michael Jones paradigm, I think, is a false dichotomy because these two guys both talk about things that aren't reported, at least in mainstream American discourse. E. Michael Jones says that Catholicism is an identity that can't be taken away if you convert. And of course, race is also a similar trait that can be described that way. So it's both. And because Jones doesn't emphasize on race compared to Sam Francis, Some might say he's missing a big link to the rest of the world. Yet I still wouldn't write off EMJ or minimize him because people who are online, people like us, I think have a valuable opportunity to see all these people that have books and speeches, etc., and we can discern who has the truth. And the Mises guys, I think, are a good example. Rothbard, Hoppe. These guys, you can understand where the limitations are with them. So if there's any critiques that people have towards EMJ, maybe you can see where the line is and then go from there. You know what I mean? And I don't think that is to say I don't think we should disregard them. So, and there's also a Sam Huntington argument. I know Scott Greer recently did a relatively recently to me on a highly respected talking about who are we? And I think that's the book that this reference comes from. And this isn't from Sam Huntington, but when Sam Francis describes the Middle Americans, how do you define that group? How do you find out what their identity is? And E. Michael Jones talked about, all right, he quoted the what Richard Nixon called the new majority. He said its roots, Nixon rather, says its roots are mainly in the Midwest, the West, and the South. And we could look at income, we could look at education. And so Sam Huntington says to speak on somebody who doesn't like the fact that E. Michael Jones doesn't talk about race. Sam Huntington says that identity has different levels of salience and it's context dependent in time and place. So, talking about American culture, and when people say it's one thing, that could be, a disadvantage to just narrow it down I mean, really anything to narrow it down to one thing. Since the complexity of identity is complicated, because identity is a complicated topic, I think you have to have an open mind when reading about it. So I know that I know when to bring back blood sports again, we like seeing people debate and this gladiator mentality. But I do think even though Sam Francis and E. Michael Jones maybe didn't see eye to eye, I think from our perspective, we can kind of I don't know, we can kind of see what these two guys are talking about. So again, very, very complicated stuff here. Again, this is identity. So I don't think we can just you know, disregard people who may not say it the same way as Sam Francis. So anyways, so there you go, David. There you go. Think we're going to be bringing in a guest. Hee hee. Do I like hip hop at all? I like some that's NAA Hegelian. I like some of Kanye. It's a complicated thing. Sort of like identity. It's a complicated thing. Um Sounds like I'm working through things. What does that mean? I just don't think it's a I don't think it's a choice. I don't think you choose Sam Francis or E. Michael Jones. I think you know, kind of like the philosopher thing. when you read somebody, you don't worship them. You you try to make sense of the content. Oh, for liberty? Okay, excuse me, excuse me. Todd, man, I recognize you. Alright, alright. So, hip hop, see oh, man, I should I even say this? Is this gonna discredit me? Is there really a difference between rap and hip hop? Because wasn't hip hop the early phase of rap, and then it turned into rap? My only my only knowledge of hip hop is mostly the West Coast thing. I'm from California, so that is the the most that I've researched it. Um, so I don't know. Kanye and, I don't know. Maybe you guys can recommend some stuff. Maybe I'm missing some stuff. Alright. What's going on? Zach, how was the debate? I thought E. Michael Jones did very well, and, would like to, you know, would like to oh, what's going on? Do I like R&B? I don't listen to I don't really listen to R&B. I'm not saying that to counter signal. Funny, today on Instagram, I posted about 80s pop, and then I didn't really listen to much 80s pop today, so I sort of, spoke too soon there. Alright, hold on, we got some recommendations. Memphis rap is probably the most accessible for metal. Uh, and I wonder how much, like, the East Coast, West Coast thing I don't know. I don't know if how much of that is valid. Alright, alright. How do I alright, how do I Yeah, hold that thought. Hold that thought, Seamus. We got some content. We got some content. Maybe you've seen some of this on Twitter. I was trying to make this more structured than the last post date review. I know the last post date review we were just going through the timeline, and we ended up on Twin Peaks actors accounts, and some things I saw that were interesting, other things very cringe. So it's a mixed bag. And once our guest gets in here, maybe we'll review some more not news, but some more relevant developments happening in the Twitter world. Oh, here's the other thing too. For I gotta be honest. It seems like classical theists. I mean, I don't know. I think people should really check out classical theists. I just think for people that are, a lot of these shows have been very casual, very not a lot of structure. And so to counteract that, I think, or not counteract, but to to show you guys something that has a lot more structure and I think a lot of depth. I think classical theists, and he does all kinds of stuff, but he interviewed E. Michael Jones, and I think that's his most popular video on the channel. So I want to shout that out because I just think it's I don't know how many people in the dissident right are checking out that stuff. So before I forget, do we have our port film? It's on Ethan Ralph's channel. All right. Yo,
Good to be back.
man, what's going on? How you been, man?
It's good hanging out. Working on a little something on the side, some potential future Substack. More importantly, what I do have to shill right out of the gate is this is something Nigel Carlsbad asked me to do. I will be contributing to this conceptual history lexicon they have going on, which basically seeks to take a encyclopedia of historic concepts that a bunch of German right-wingers came up with in the late 70s and applied to the modern day, showing how political concepts have changed in response to civil rights, decolonization, that whole zeitgeist. It's a very sophisticated project, but just out of the gate, I just have to shill begriffsgeschichte.substack.com. This is what Carlsbad's working on. I'll type it in so you can throw it in chat.
Sure.
Before I forget.
Yeah, I've been seeing you post some and a lot of tagging, and so yeah, I got to catch up. I've been playing catch up, so yeah, no, that's interesting to see. But yeah, you mentioned via Discord the what was it, the new majority? That was
You
something
mean
that kind of
the Nixonian electoral strategy? Yeah.
yeah. Go for it. I
Just
wanted to
when I
give
get
you
into more of my sort of election head mode, which is what I'm doing now for something that I'm writing. Sorry, I got a bit of a sore throat. There are a lot of eerie similarities between sort of Trump's ascendancy and the Nixon White House. I'm sure people have talked about this before. I know Thomas is big on this comparison, but it is to the point where Nixon's first midterm in 1970 has pretty much the exact same result as Trump's 2018 midterm, where they both lose seats in the House, gain seats in the Senate. Why is this important? Because both of them are running sort of silent majority campaigns, appealing to the silent majority of Americans, these old conservative tropes. but they're able to receive eerily similar electoral windfalls because of their strategy, which basically appeals to the South and the West, bringing in the Northern Catholics from the cities, bringing in the South into the Republican coalition, which is very important, and in appealing to this sort of national consciousness, this national populist consciousness, if you will, they're able to pull off victories that other Republicans couldn't.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think what you're describing is also what Sam Francis called the Middle Americans, right? That's also
Middle American radicals. Yeah,
there's some overlap there. And I know with the fusionism, that's a little complicated because it's it kind of watered down a lot of that Nixon coalition. So I don't know where the line is between like how much of the Nixon coalition overlaps with the Reagan model. That's something I haven't really verified. And it
well,
might be
I think
interesting.
Reagan used similar tactics. Reagan got elected by the same people who elected Nixon. But the issue is, obviously, the neocons took over very quickly. He brought them to Washington with him. And as a result of this, the movement got co-opted, and it also lost its popular appeal. It sort of loses its populist element where you're sort of taking the fight to the Eastern establishment. You can see, if you're comparing Nixon to Reagan, which I know the alt-right used to love to do back in the day, there's a real hatred of the Eastern establishment, a real hatred of sort of the New Yorkers who Nixon despised in his campaigning, in his rhetoric. And as a result, people were able to form a real bond with him. But with Reagan, there was a sense of wanting to be accepted, wanting to sort of glad hand and shake hands with Tipper Gore. It wasn't really a total war. It was more of a compromise. And as a result, the agenda got compromised as well.
Gotcha. I wanted to you mentioned national populism, and
Here we go.
I wanted to pull up. This is something that I'm supposed to be in class learning, and instead I'm on Chronicles magazine, and I got this Paul Gottfried article that I was surprised to see. Give me a sec to find this receipt, because you probably recognize. Here we go. All right, let me share screens. Yo, Jonathan Poll in chat.
Loved your video on the Historica Strike. It's a very important area of history.
So, of course, Gottfried is very active today, and he was taking some shots at some people that you guys might be aware of, and he was responding to this Quillette article, and this person was, as he says, makes unkind references to Pat Buchanan, Pedro Gonzalez, and him, Paul Gottfried. The current issue of Chronicles, this is a quote, includes an article by Pat Buchanan condemning President Biden's vilification of Putin. Paul Gottfried cries, "Long live Viktor Orban," and elsewhere blasts neoconservatives for promoting grotesque ideological imperialism. I think that's Pedro's, is it?
That's true. Yeah. I think Gottfried called Viktor Orban his personal hero on an episode of God of Gottfried once. I don't know if that's just ethnic similarity or appreciation. Buchanan obviously famously said of Putin, "I think he's our guy," or something along those lines when he was talking about paleoconservatism.
Now, right after, apparently this was in an outlet, or wait a second, it says Quillette, and then he goes on to Compact. Okay, so he's talking about this other outlet, and I didn't know, or I didn't remember, a new online publication edited by Sohrab Ayarmi. Am I saying that right? And he describes him as blending social conservatism with economic socialism.
National social, wait, no.
And so as you can see here, there's, a lot of these Twitter characters, and people say when there's spats on the internet, we're going to bring up another person pretty soon here. But when you bring up these spats, people say that this is just online discourse. It doesn't really represent anything, or it doesn't translate into politics. But what you're seeing here is a lot of people, and you know what? I just remembered another recent one. I think a lot of this kind of shows you like where the wind's blowing, and which, some of the coalitions that are already being created to kind of lead into the midterms and the 2024 election. So I think developments like this are important. I think, like you said, if talking about the new majority and what does that get us today? I think well, we're seeing the battle lines being drawn by a lot of the commentators, writers, the pundit class, maybe you call them. But before I forget, let me
Yeah, you definitely see sort of populism resurgent. I know it's a very cliche theme, but what's going to be important going forward, and people like Fuentes have talked about this, is you want to institutionalize the Trump revolution, which is something Nixon wasn't able to do. Although you do have some advantages over Nixon. He had to fight against Congress. Congress shouldn't be a problem after 2022. He had to fight against the press. The press is increasingly delegitimized if you look at the Taylor Lorenz saga. So in the long run, there are some positive changes, even though obviously the country's in worse shape. Demographically, the country is much different to how it was in the 1970s, but the right is also getting stronger. And I think this is something you have to hammer home to white pill people. There was no, and I know some Groypers might disagree with me, there was no J.D. Vance in the 1980s. There was no Blake Masters or whatever. There are a lot of people who have a deeper understanding of the issues who are finally achieving power. And what they do with that power, whether or not they institutionalize their ideology, that's going to be the test for the next 6 years.
Yeah. And we're already starting to see it. Now, of course, how could I forget?
Oh, yeah.
This is another example of, journalists being interested in this sort of, dissident right, online right, however you want to describe it. And, it's a mixed bag because not everybody is represented in this article. However, you're already starting to see, as you said, with institutionalizing it, people like J.D. Vance are quoted here. Peter Thiel is mentioned in a kind of profile-esque style.
Well, there's a lot of Thiel bucks going around with Populist Inc. and NRX specifically. Back when Chris Bond was on Twitter, before he went, as he was going crazy, he was accusing everyone on the right of taking money from Peter Thiel. And even though that was nuts, as Bronze Age Pervert would say, you do have to think crazy because that will reveal the truth. And the truth that he touched on is that people like Peter Thiel, sort of rogue billionaires, people of the dissident elites that could be useful, are throwing around money in sort of the X-alt-right or Populist Inc. or NRX. As these movements become co-opted or sort of funded by important people, they enter the Overton window, which naturally shifts the thing right, which will slowly get to sort of the paleo-conservatives, even though people like Gottfried are persona non grata. Someone like Pedro Gonzalez could break through. I think that's very encouraging.
Yeah, and it's looking like it's normal.
The Vance quote is pretty good, if you could find it. Because that's what I was saying about people really understanding the issues. There's a good quote in that article where the future senator from Ohio is talking about doing a de-Baathification program on American institutions. And if he can pull that off with, Trump 2024, 60-seat filibuster-proof majority, you could see some positive changes. I'm not going to say they're going to save the West, but they could improve life for a lot of people and improve the prospects of a real sort of dissident right revolution in the future.
Right. Now, there was another character that was making the rounds. And do I have the tweet here? Sort of along the same lines. But yeah, Jason Stanley, who
what a nut job.
he's somebody who is like the punching bag for Twitter. I don't really see him. I mean, outside of his media spots, the only time I see him on the timeline is when he's getting made fun of as Nate Hochman, who's a National Review writer. I don't really have really much like sympathy for people who write for National Review, but it's just funny to see, again, more infighting. And this is sort of what got me interested in right-wing politics, is these dichotomies between Buckley and Pat Buchanan and all these, rivalries that go back, decades. So it's just interesting to kind of see the modern manifestation of that with People like Jason Stanley.
Well, Stanley's obviously big. I mean, he's got some philosophical thing going on the side, but he's big because he's one of those people who, after 2016, wrote all these Trump is a fascist books, very derivative genre, sort of the intellectual level of conservative ink, writing books about Obama in 1984.
Yeah,
Years
yeah,
before
that's
that, sort of like the Glenn Beck of the left. I know you'd resent that label.
it's
That's kind of how he got big.
what is it? It's the Gary Kasparov, Winter is Coming.
Yeah.
Stuff
It's
like
quite
that.
it's quite quiche when you look back on it, but unlike the sort of Rush Limbaughs of the world, these people hold institutional power, which makes it a little more unsettling.
So
But Stanley's just one of those guys.
It looks like he started in 2005, and then this might be like a Douglas Murray example. Like,
not as bad.
like
Douglas Murray is much better.
Right. Well, he's kind of got a similar track record of like having these books.
Well, I was thinking of a lot of neoconservatives are into this. Like you looked at the article about Gottfried just now. He was quoting Ronald Radosh, who's a pretty good historian of Soviet espionage in the U.S. He wrote a good book about sort of communist infiltration back in the day. Neocons are very good on the question of the USSR, but people like him, people like Anne Applebaum, they sort of come out of the woodwork to whine about Putin and complain about the twilight of democracy in the West.
Man. So what else?
Yeah, Murray's a neocon. Murray's a neocon, but to his credit, he's like the original wave of neocons in the 70s who were afraid of black people. So he's willing to play with sort of Enoch Powell and that kind of stuff.
Did he?
Well, the thing about neocons is they were quite socially. Obviously, the 60s were much more right-wing than now. And you see that reflected in the early neocons. You remember that plenty of them are Jewish people who got disenchanted with the civil rights movement. And a lot of them went into the conservative movement with the collapse of New Deal liberalism. And in particular, within the civil rights context, there was the collapse of the Black-Jewish alliance. Obviously, you had Jewish people sponsoring the NAACP and all. Not to get all JQ on you, but that was a significant factor. The sort of Black-Jewish alliance is the engine of American liberalism. Once that breaks apart after the Great Society, after that failure, a lot of neocons react against their former African-American comrades. They react against the crime wave, people like James Q. Wilson thinking about crime. And they in a way, they are more based in the current round of Populist Inc. Because at the time, given the crime wave, given the sort of Charles Bronson death wish scenario on the ground, these sort of Ivy League intellectuals, New York intellectuals, given their ethnic background, have a lot of resentment towards their former allies. And it's quite a funny quirk. I know Carlsbad was tweeting about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I gotta catch up, man. I gotta catch up.
You may see that again if crime's getting pretty bad from what I see across the Pacific. So maybe you'll get that again. Maybe Sora Amari will get mugged and he'll say, no child tax credits for you. Should be quite funny.
It seems like well, let me see if I can find. All right. Let me see here. Poll still in chat. Oh, your book? What? The Years of Great Silence? Is that the one? Yeah, Paul. I see you. I see you in chat.
He had a very good video on Ernst Nolte and the sort of academic debates about the Holocaust that dropped the other day. Maybe you want to put that in chat. I'll pull up the link. Much more highbrow debate than Fuentes and Medicare.
Well, I was wondering if are we back in blood sports yet, man? Because I've been waiting for some kind of return. I know that's kind of something that's maybe a personal thing, but
I didn't follow the original IBS, but some of the
Yeah.
guys I know who do, you're getting very into it, sort of like, oh, Catboy destroyed, that kind of thing. I know, I know who you favor in that dispute. But
You guys gonna pull on?
yeah, that's polls in the chat, private chat.
Oh, okay.
It's good. I need to read Gelati, and once Publius Agrippa, the Substack writer, has finished translating Ernst Nolte's European Civil War, I'll probably have to go over that as well.
Pull. Remind me who. Remind me what topic you wanted to discuss.
Which topic?
Yeah, Jonathan Pohl was recommending something, but I forgot what the topic was. Let me see. Oh, about is it metal? It was metal related. Yeah, are you still here?
Blue Chair versus Judas Priest.
The thing about Priest, I don't know. Do we want to get into that?
I was talking with Carlsbad about it. He was saying that he was counter signaling the Blue Chair thing.
Right, because here's the thing. I understand it's a complicated thing because in the 60s, music went in all these different directions. And so psychedelic rock is kind of like proto metal. And so it's not like totally useless, but it's, I don't know. Are we going to call like Led Zeppelin a metal band because they are important as far as the development into what it became? It's just one of those things where like it's one of those unspoken agreements. We understand that Blue Cheer, and I think I have that album somewhere. I think it might be in that box, but obviously, like, yeah, that's probably metal for that time period, especially. But I don't know. Do we really want to split hairs with the whole? Well, this album was pretty heavy for that time. I just don't know if it's the same.
Yeah, it's always a gradual process. I mean, I was thinking more Black Sabbath or Motorhead, but as far as conventional 80s style heavy metal, twin guitars, Priest is probably the first sort of clear band. I would probably agree with you there. There's something like Rock-a-Rolla.
Yeah, because rock and roll is very blues.
Yeah, and it's not very good. Not very good.
It's a mixed bag. Here,
Victim of Changes. That's great. I have a signed copy of that on vinyl somewhere.
Oh wow,
yeah, it's pretty dope. My uncle got it a while ago.
Wow. Here, real quick, Hegelian. I from what I've heard, because I haven't seen the show, but isn't Madman like
paused?
Totally, yeah. It's totally like edging into the 50s weren't what you thought they were. It's sort of a repetitive genre, as you said.
I'm sure it's well written. I haven't seen it either. I think one of the guys from The Sopranos was the main writer, so I'm sure it's good in that way. But that's what I hear as well. Quite subversive. There's another show that's quite similar to Mad Men. My buddy in Florida recommended me watch, which is quite good, called Magic City, which is on Stars, and it's basically sort of how Jews took over South Florida. But stylistically, it's quite similar to Mad Men, a bit more pornographic.
Well, what time period is that set in?
Sort of not quite 50s, more so 60s, sort of Martin Luther King era, Cuban Missile Crisis.
Is Mad Men 62? See,
yeah, 60. Yeah.
Okay.
But well, the early 60s were kind of similar to the 50s.
Right.
It's like how people say, 1980, the 80s ended in 92 or 94. The 60s ended when JFK was killed. That's what the that's what the boomers would tell you. Age of Entitlement is framed that way. That book about the civil rights law destroying the American Constitution. Even on the larger level, I know Thomas is a big Eric Hobsbawm fan. He's got his whole long 19th century thing from 1789 through to 1914. Short 20th century, ends in 89, that kind of thing. Much like metal albums, it's a gradual thing. You can't really place any hard and fast, sort of, this is the first album, this is the first year of the 80s marker on it.
And maybe that's the whole problem with trying to narrow it down. That's probably not the goal for figuring this stuff out. It's kind of an organic thing.
It's what the Supreme Court judge said about pornography. You know it when you see it.
Maybe I'm not
Stuff
sure.
like that, in my experience, is shot through with Semitic hatred of the subject. maybe.
Oh, Fahrenheit. Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. And I thought you were Paul, so I appreciate it.
Unhealthy
Thank
liberal
you.
ideas. Yeah, it's Hollywood, I guess.
Interesting. What do we got? Page and Plant need to face the facts. They are a metal band. Yeah, I think they especially didn't, or I don't know who was the main influence, but it seemed like they really ran away from that term.
I didn't.
And
I didn't see it. I see like hard rock. I see like there's not really.
well,
You
it's
think of their top songs.
like Dazed and Confused.
It's
I
a blues
can't.
band with no black people. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, okay.
That's obviously where they took the songs from too.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I think Dazed and Confused. Oh, no, like Communication Breakdown. Maybe you could say that's like a punk riff, but I don't know. That's very heavy.
That's like saying Queen is well, I suppose Queen is some metal moments.
Well, I would say those first two albums is
maybe
and of course what everyone says, Stone Cold
Innuendo.
Crazy is
Even towards the end, they got a bit heavier when he had AIDS.
what album
Innuendo, I think, sort of an epic.
Okay,
that was quite good. I liked it.
I don't remember if I listened to that all the way through. That's going back a ways.
But you can sort of have blues metal, obviously. You have sort of Motorhead is very inspired by the blues, very much inspired by. You were talking about the British invasion. Ironically, with a band like Motorhead, they're sort of going back. Lemmy's sort of inspired by Little Richard, a lot of the black music out of America, a lot of the southern music out of America, rather than the Beatles. Which is why Motorhead is good and the Beatles are a little cringe.
Yeah, the Beatles, I mean, that might be an IQ test, especially with Thomas really forcing that. The anti-Beatles sentiment, there is like an American perspective to say that, that is foreign influence over music.
Someone wrote a book about that. I'll have to dig it up for you again.
Really?
Oh, dude. A friend of mine who's into metal was shilling this book, like, how the Beatles killed rock and roll. Try and find it for you.
Because this famous disc jockey, Wolfman Jack, that was his take.
Yeah.
Because he was a personality, that's what probably made it stuck. But
the Kinks is the best British invasion band. Yeah, the Kinks is pretty good.
Kinks are good. Oh man,
the soundtrack of UKIPper and Brexit. Yes, how the Beatles destroyed rock and roll. I have not read it yet.
Someone in chat.
Motorhead rips face. Damn right.
What do we got? Oh man.
Before I started listening to Motorhead, I was actually at a boarding school when Lemmy died, and I woke up one morning and came out, and the sort of metalhead housemaster drew an ace of spades on the whiteboard as a tribute.
Really?
Awesome. And I was like, who's that? What's that a reference to? And it was a revelation,
Really? Was that your introduction
to Motorhead? Yeah, but I had listened to metal before then.
Interesting.
Village Green Preservation Society. Academic Asian has a good stream about the reactionary elements in British music compared to American rock, which was a very good, I think, cigar stream a while back.
Do you know the title?
Maybe no. It was something about music. He did one about music, and then he did one about the youth generation in the '60s. Sort of British youth is reacting to the destruction of culture. American youth is more Jewish influenced, more that kind of stuff. By Elijah Ward, yeah, that's the one. I have not read it yet, but I heard it was good.
Were there any Australian metal bands? I'm not sure. Not sure.
Yeah, I can't really think of it off the top of my head.
It's one of those things like Russia, you know, name a Russian metal band. It's just one of those places where
No, Russia had again, I can't name them off the top of my head, but I do remember doing a deep dive on this years back, and they had sort of bands in the behind the Iron Curtain that stole riffs from Maiden. I know Paul's very much into
Oh, I
Russian.
know. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, Paul's into Russian music. He likes Kino, Victor Tsoi. Gorky Park, yeah. Gorky Park was sort of Russian hair metal, from what I recall.
A
Rose
reactionary
Tattoo,
take on what?
The Fall, Portal.
Not,
I mean, yeah, that's the problem with Australian culture in general. I was posting about this earlier. There's sort of a small population, very spread out. You know, not much economic or cultural capital. You have to import a lot of it from the Anglos, from the US, from China. So there are small pockets, but things like AC/DC are very much the exception. A lot of that talent gets poached by the Yanks. My father loved to talk about how when he was growing up in Australia, you know, some 50 years ago, there was basically, before the internet, there was basically nothing. You had to wait for, things to get shipped in from the States because very little music. It's different now, but there still hasn't really been that cultural foundation established yet. It's a very young country.
Well, isn't
still the first.
Parkway Drive, isn't that like a Zoomer? Or is that a Gen X?
Sabbath, the first metal. I'd agree with that. I think Sabbath is probably the first.
Let me try to remember.
Something about Tony Iommi's, I like the story of Sabbath too. Like he fucks up his fingers in a industrial plant in England. Yeah,
it's a very British story. It's a
not only sort of England in the 70s, dreary, rainy, shitty, but particularly for metal, you sort of have the violence and literal heavy metal destroying the human and the technology replaces it. I know Thomas will get a kick out of that motif. Blues is British, jazz is French. Perhaps both sort of Africanized as well.
Polish jazz. See, I was trying to get into swing music, and I would like, if you guys got any references, I'd like to try. I was doing a Spotify playlist. So
Nick Cave, yeah, that's cool.
What do we got? Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't want this to be like a extensive stream. I just wanted to get some stuff out there. I said I was going to review the debate, and
which debate? E. Michael Jones.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, he's debating that guy Adam Green, who's just very cringe.
The last big debate I remember he did was he did one on, sort of ties into what I was sending you earlier. He debated about race with Jared Taylor.
Yeah, that kind of goes into, I don't know if you saw what I was saying about Sam Francis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of that kind of thing. It kind of creates a dichotomy where I don't think it should exist. And
well, you're coming out of different social circumstances too. Michael Jones is obviously sort of a Catholic from the northern inner city. In his book, The Slaughter of Cities, about sort of integration in the 60s, he's writing about how, the black and white dichotomy doesn't really exist in northern US, or didn't really exist until then. Whereas Sam Francis, obviously, I was writing about this separately on my own. Sam Francis comes out of the South. He's very familiar with sort of the blacks and white tension there, sort of bipolar racial balance, and that definitely affects his worldview. I don't know where Taylor's from, but
yeah, it's one of those things, and this might be the example I give is like the blood sports dynamic, just because it seems like that's kind of back into relevancy now. But it's like people want to pick a side when they watch things like that. And to me, like the debate that you're referencing, I look at that and I see where the limitations are with both speakers. and I wouldn't like disregard them because they don't have that overlap. We can inherit that overlap. Do you know what I'm saying? We
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see where
Hegelian
the
synthesis. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So that's the thing. I think that's the takeaway. Not this rivalry, not this, how come he doesn't get it? Don't worry about it. We get it. We understand. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean, they all
how
apply to different situations.
and I think the Sam Huntington book is relevant talking about this too. The identity is not, a
Who are
monolith.
we? Yeah, it's a combination of things, but you need all of them. You need the sort of you need
Did
the ideological part, you need the ethnic part, which not many people will talk about now. Proposition Nation. I know the Confederate historians are big on that.
did you watch the Scott Greer review? Because I haven't yet.
No. I'm unfortunately I've not taken the IQ supplements. I remain below 187.
Yeah, that's right.
But I should probably
All
get into
right,
it.
it's all right.
He did that new one on Antifa, which I'm kind of interested to hear. I don't know
Oh,
if you
is
listened
it
to that one yet. The
the
punk,
politics
the
of it?
skinhead, yeah, the skinhead who killed someone.
Uh,
This is the newest IQ supplement. I have not listened to it,
oh,
but maybe
okay.
I
I
should.
don't think I know because there was one time where he was. I think the title was something like "The Politics of Heavy Metal," and it's like, is he just like pandering to us at this point? Is he just spoiling us with these very specific topics? So
Well, yeah, both Greer and Patrick Casey are metal pilled. Um, unfortunately, Nick Fuentes is definitely a rap head, hip hop head,
well,
R and B, Kanye.
there's a lot of
Too much time in Chicago.
that might be a generational thing
Oh yeah,
because
Zoomers are a very Africanized generation as far as
because
tastes.
it's weird because like Kai Schwimmer, that's a guy who really loves the '80s. I go
Mm.
on his story
Oh yeah, out of
and
touch. The whole theme of the show. Yeah.
right, but even like just his song selection, he like when we were driving around, he's recommending the Cars, and it's like, well, what Zoomer knows who the Cars are? And it's just one of those things.
Well, that's his
It's
personality,
weird.
right? Sort of Patrick Bateman mixed with the Mormon Church, mixed with.
Okay. So
That's
it's a
the impression.
LARP.
You met him. I don't know.
Well, it's just high energy. It's very a
Bit of
nice.
LARPing, like you said. I know people were giving Fuentes shit for that in the Medicare debate because he kept quoting the Joker,
It's just
quoting
I
Drive.
think it kind of
That's what
it
happens. You know, you have an increasingly diverse and atomized generation. You get your identity from consumption,
the
which is I know Condolis talked about it.
it's complicated. Oh, dude, Jonathan Paul, hold that thought. Hold that thought. I you would think that Zoomers would probably be the most receptive to some of the older generational stuff because we have the internet, and so we don't have to be gullible to these modern cultural dynamics. Like you said, Zoomers really love rap. But if we're Zoomers, that means that we value decentralized media, so we wouldn't have to value rap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Wouldn't
Well,
you?
it's very hard to have a sort of the generation is not as cohesive culturally as say the baby boomers were, or millennials, or like
Oh, dude.
I don't know, what are the big events of the 20th century, like 9/11? How many people? Some Zoomers remember it, some Zoomers don't.
Um, okay, Jonathan Paul, dude. Chuck's book. What's that one about? What's it? Cocoa Puffs. You know what I'm talking. That's gonna sound very strange out of context, but Paul, do you know what I'm talking about? He's got that one. Because I'm trying to write for Billy Pratt. Do you like that guy, Garak?
Who?
Here, let me get his Twitter. You'll probably recognize this guy's always showing up on the timeline. This guy. Let me share screens. Share screens. I think it's about. Isn't it like about millennials? Poll. Help me remind, or help me remember. Help me remind.
There's more of a monoculture than you think. That's true in some respects. I think the way people talk, the way people experience.
Do you recognize this guy?
Oh yeah, I've seen him on the TL.
He's got like well here let me
Oh
not
yeah,
share.
nice mutuals. Cool.
He when he's talking about his magazine, or I guess outlet, he recommends one of Chuck's writings, and I don't know if it's from the Cocoa Puffs book, but it's very like culture. It's based on. I mean I haven't read it, but it's like culturally minded, and that's kind of what he's going for, this Rolling Stone-esque style. And that's probably the type of stuff I'm going to be reading recently, just to get into that headspace.
Vulpa's persona says, "Who wants to identify with their generation? I do it grudgingly as a realist Gen Xer Daria." No, I put that last part in myself. I think
Daria.
you have a point there. I think the reason why Zoomers might be more conscious of their own generation is not just the sort of meme discourse that came out of it, the sort of 30-year-old boomer, all the Wojaks, but a persistent theme with Zoomers is the sort of search for an identity, within the ruins of civilization. I know Turnip has talked about this. The reason why people want to identify with their generation is because they're clinging to something that will bind them to other people socially, whether it's political, cultural, and if you're desperate enough, you make it about your age.
What do I gotta watch? Do I gotta watch Daria to understand Gen X? Is that necessary?
Well, I think we have an insight into Gen X.
Does it give insight?
I don't know. I think I have a handle on Gen X.
Just, okay. Yeah, we
family.
might be confident enough to just go.
Well, it's like asking a millennial about the boomers. They get it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Although boomers are misunderstood, everyone thinks they're sort of ultra conservative, but anyone who reads into the history of the flower children in Vietnam, it's not the case.
Maybe that's a family ties dynamic.
Oh yeah,
dude. There was. Let me try and find a. Am I able to find like Family Ties episodes? I just want to read the description of one of them because I was trying to find free episodes. I think Michael J. Fox was trying to impress a feminist. I forgot, man. If anybody remembers in chat. Oh, okay. I found, there it is. Alex P. Keaton pretends to be a feminist to impress girls he likes.
This is that will probably become more. That'll probably become a skill we'll all have to develop with the coming generations.
For the sake of, oh man, no. For anyone who thinks I'm lying, I mean,
I can fix her.
I can save her. Oh man, no, I gotta watch the show. I think I watched some of the pilot a while ago. It's just one of the, it might be one of those things. It might be like how young people are receptive to JFK because he looks cool. That might be the similar dynamic where Alex P. Keaton sympathizes with Reagan, although I think he likes the nitty-gritty details about him, but even though he likes Reagan.
Well, I see a lot of that with Trump. I actually this guy I know in the kinetic world, he's definitely picked up a lot of, the very young guy, he's picked up a lot of his mannerisms from Trump. He does the hand gestures. He's quoting the 2016 debates all the time. It's a very uncanny thing, but some people always just gravitate towards impersonating powerful people. Not just powerful people, but hip, dynamic, right-wing strongmen,
Is that the Thomas Carlyle take?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, there's Carlyle is completely correct. There's an inherent sort of tendency towards great man worship on the right. There's a reason why there isn't. I mean, you look at Bernie Sanders people. That's the analog on the left wing. There isn't that level of admiration for Bernie that there is for Trump.
Oh yeah, what is it? Didn't they call it the enthusiasm gap? Or I think that was
enthusiasm was for Biden, but it was even less popular. But even with Bernie, you don't see people. It's somewhat cultish, but not on the same level as Trump. Not at the same level where you have the yard signs and the action figures, and people will still have the Trump profile photo martyring him. And it's just a phenomenon of the right. I don't see people like Bill Clinton or Obama. Obama's the exception. People do feel a lot of sort of tribal loyalty to Obama, maybe because he's black.
Yeah, Bill Clinton doesn't get that same notoriety.
I mean, I know like one or two people who do, but they're just weird.
Yeah, that definitely seems like an exception.
Well, it's kind of like even on. Oh, actually, another good example on the dissident right, the people who love Nixon, we all love Nixon. You could
Oh,
definitely do a
that's
whole.
right.
You could
Yeah,
do a
yeah.
whole. You could do a whole episode on that, sort of dynamics behind that. Why is it the case? Because it is very weird to a lot of people. People are like, "Why do you like Nixon?" On paper, Reagan is more right wing, which is true. But it's the force of personality. It's the brooding. It's the tapes. It's the espionage and the cursing out the press. You're gonna impersonate Lightfoot this Halloween. Excellent, excellent. There's a good Tim Dillon, the comedian, who politically kind of cringe, but he's a funny rant about Lori Lightfoot. Right. Governor Reagan is better than President Reagan. I don't know about that. He was sort of big on pushing no-fault divorce laws in California, lots of gun control, directed at the Black Panthers, which might be based. And there was one other thing he did as a governor. I think he opposed. Let me look this up real quick. You might know what I'm talking about, being a California guy. Yeah, when he was governor, Reagan opposed the Briggs Initiative, California Proposition 6, which would ban lesbians and gays from working in California public schools. Reagan actually opposed that as governor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Carlsbad mentioned it, but Reagan always had sort of liberal tendencies. A public school teacher, a teacher's aide, administrator, or counselor could be fired if he was found to have engaged in public homosexual activity or public homosexual conduct where he would promote public or private homosexuality towards children, which is sort of a predecessor of the Don't Say or the Parental Rights and Education Bill down in Florida, but more extreme. And Reagan actually opposed that. So was he a great governor? Not perfect. And as a president, actually, Scott Greer has a great article on Reagan. I'll have to pull it up.
Oh, is that the Revolver one?
Yeah, he's best writer on a Revolver for sure.
Well, I can't tell who all the writers are, so
that's true. That is one problem with Revolver. I like the work they do, but the website design is kind of fucking cancerous. You sort of. Do you guys follow BAP? I like BAP. I've been going back and listening to Caribbean Rhythms recently.
Is Bronze Age Vitalist? Is that him?
What do you mean on Twitter? Oh, no, he's Latinx Pootler.
Could you put that in private chat? Thank you. Dude, I'm so like it's like with Blepe. Like I don't know where he is.
Oh, that's true. Well, people used to pretend that it wasn't BAP, but now everyone admits it's BAP. Yeah, something like shit. What was his name? Is like Latino bodybuilders.
Wait a second. That guy is the same?
Who?
The one you just put in chat. Is that him?
BAP, Latino Bodybuilders for Hellenism. Yeah, that's BAP.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a separate person.
Nope. Yeah, you can tell because people like Greer retweet him a lot. He's got the Caribbean Rhythms episodes out. I used to have this thing where I could listen to the episodes for free, but I think it doesn't work anymore. I have to stop Jewing out. Revolver is great. Yeah, I like Revolver. I like Darren. Darren Beatty's a very smart guy. I know he's involved in reporting now with the January 6th thing. But he, Darren Beatty, this is another connection you'll like, Ace. He gave a speech at Paul Gottfried's H.L. Mencken Club.
Yeah, that's what got him.
That's what he got in trouble for.
And then Tucker.
The speech itself is very cool. Sort of how the right wing changes after the fall of fusionist conservatism. But beyond that, he's just an impressive scholar. His dissertation on Heidegger is a bit out there. Sort of, it's a bit heavy. But if you like philosophy, I would definitely recommend Beatty's writing about Heidegger.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, for me, it's like it's difficult to read. I remember I was trying one time, and yeah. you just know this guy has like a 200+ IQ, just the way he's. And
well, he's just he's a mathematics autist, and those guys are great, But got to get Greer on the show.
Well, I mean,
that's what I've been telling you.
Well, I don't know how to reach out to the. Well, I guess
Thomas.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know
You don't
if
want to.
you're.
You don't want to overstep. He's out of your league.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. He just seems like a busy guy, and he does his
It's
own
like
thing.
asking the cute girl as the from.
Asking what?
It's like asking a girl out.
It's difficult. It's a very difficult task. I don't know if that's through this side or from the other person's side. Who knows? Who knows who's at fault? But it's just
He
one of
doesn't do
those
much.
things.
He doesn't do much content outside of the highly respected. It's like Steve
Okay.
Saylor's. Steve Saylor's another one. He's done like one interview, one audio interview, I think, that I could find. And I like him. I think he's a good writer. He's a good columnist. But I really wish he did some sort of podcast.
Do you think he's like too boomer? I think I remember
Who?
reading a comment of somebody saying that he's I don't know. He's not quite as sharp as I don't know, maybe some of the other people on Oon's review, for example. Do you think that
Well, I
that's
think he's got a little bit boomer in personality, but I find that charming. And he's got a niche, sort of like race and crime, and he sort of sticks to it, does it well. It's a good sort of baby's first HBD, human biodiversity.
maybe I don't know. Maybe we get Scott on the show. I want to talk about metal, not really
Yeah,
politics.
yeah. Forget the forget about the politics. You got to talk. You have to interrogate his black metal taste.
Well, it's just
Get Vargon.
what a yeah. I don't know. Maybe we get Paul Gottfried on. We'll see. We'll see.
Saleh did one with Lipton Matthews. I like Lipton Matthews. The accent is a bit jarring, but he went on with as sort of someone like Joseph Cotto is connected to a lot of them.
Is AA on good terms with Sargon? I'm
Oh, yeah, they're friends. Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Sargon was at the event in the UK.
Was he?
I think so.
Wow.
Yes, and Sargon recently did a debate with Panama Hat on Apostolic Majesty's channel about liberalism versus reaction, which is quite interesting. That's probably paywalled. It's probably paywalled by now, but it was a good show.
Let me see.
Greer loves metal. Talk to Thomas about metal. That's what I'm saying. You got to get him on. Get Greer on. Get Paul Gottfried to do something at your college. I'm telling you, all of these people, they have nothing. It may sound a bit condescending, but they really do have nothing better to do. They'd love, especially Gottfried. 80-year-old guy. He'd love to talk to sort of college Republicans about the evils of conservative ink. That's what he lives for.
We'll see. And yeah, I'll ask. I'll try to reach out to Scott. I'd just be curious if he's interested. I'd sort of like to go through the decades summarizing, and I just feel like he hasn't really done that. He's and I think
you could combine his interests. You could do sort of ethnicity and heavy metal. Is metal and why was it that the Anglos invented metal?
There you go.
Metal, then the Germans do it well. The Scandinavians do it well. Finland's got a good black metal scene. Same with the other three maybe. How come the French don't have good metal? How come the Spanish don't have good metal? Why is Russian metal so bad? And then you break it down and you say this. The reason why is the Anglo blood.
You might say that heavy metal is sort of like it's European, and world history is derivative of European history. So you might say that there's some.
Well, there's some good. Japan, which is always been very good.
Oh yeah, Japan has
always been very good at copying Europe. But yeah, it's true. I think metal is very. It's sort of for hard and heavy music. Metal is very much you sort of take the African elements out of rock and you replace it with sort of classical influence of classical music. You take the heaviness of rock, you turn that up, you insert the technology, insert the industry. French black metal. That's true. Black metal is very different. I was thinking conventional metal when I was talking about it. Botswana, yeah. I don't think metal is exclusively European, but it does, musically speaking, there is that, that is where it became popular. Well, you could say world music in general is dominated by sort of Afro-European. Les Legion Noir. There was some other one, Peste Noir or something, which I think Greer recommended. Be interesting to look at which regions of the U.S. did good with metal too. Sort of geographically speaking, to come out of the northern Midwest or
well, it's interesting because like
southern metal.
I was gonna say how like Metallica, for example, they were kind of disgusted with the Sunset Strip LA glam metal scene, and so they migrated to San Francisco, and one of the early creators of thrash. And so it's weird how like LA is literally where all the action is happening for hard rock, glam. It's kind of a hodgepodge, and yet them migrating to another city and this like aggressive style develops. That's kind of interesting. And it's all California too. It's kind of so. And then eventually it reaches over to the East Coast. And then the East Coast has a lot of strange stuff like CBGBs. That's another hodgepodge.
Well, you see a lot of punk out of sort of New York underground.
And it seems like the underground, the hardcore stuff in the East Coast is a lot more aggressive.
And then you can get into the politics of that. I got my hands on a nice agnostic front shirt recently, so I've been going back and listening to that.
Wow. And it's like it's interesting
Very
because like California metal shouldn't really have a home there. You know what I mean? Like why would people living in California want to be playing this loud, aggressive music? I know that like surf rock, I don't know if you want to call that heavy.
Well, it's got the speed. It's got the shredding. Not shredding.
Yeah,
speed.
The speed shredding. It's a complicated thing.
Yeah, well, like you were saying, thrash is a reaction against the Sunset Strip, sort of pop metal becoming commercialized.
It's a reactionary genre. It's I guess the androgynous
to the degenerate aspects of hair metal. But as much as there's sort of gender bending, there is that level of sort of, like you were saying in a couple episodes prior, bass metal, sort of not taking yourself seriously, having fun.
Yeah, bass
ultimately
guitars,
beyond thrash.
All about that.
Well, beyond thrash, there was also another reaction to glam metal is grunge, obviously, which is a lot more depressed, sort of heroin metal. Not even metal, really. And that's starting to make a comeback because of the Batman movie. We got to counter signal that.
The what?
The Batman movie is gonna make. I think it predicts a grunge revival.
No. Wait a second. No. We can't do this. Hold on. Wait. I think we have to kind of put everything into context. I think in that movie specifically, you're saying over the course, the long-term effect might be steering people in that direction. You think so?
Maybe. But also politically, culturally, there people are kind of stuck in the 1990s, just in general. So maybe it won't be as big as 80s nostalgia because it's already so familiar.
Well, man,
the 80s is radically different aesthetically, culturally to what we have now. Sort of Reaganism, follow the Soviet Union, American optimism. The current zeitgeist, which is very pessimistic, very racial, sort of drug infested, that's quite similar to the 90s. So maybe the nostalgia isn't there.
Interesting.
Seattle and Portland will dominate rock.
Well, what's Seattle going to develop into next? Is it that would be my question.
Chaz too. Well, Seattle is sort of ground zero for a lot of the sort of hipsters going into metal, hipsters discovering black metal, Antifa going after bands like Marduk.
Yeah, Sly Cooper, that's a throwback too. I haven't thought about that game in a while. Sly Cooper, you're right. The 90s redo has already happened, so I don't think it would be like a redo of a redo. I don't think that's that's kind of the state of American rock radio right now, is just kind of extending the 2000s, late 90s sound, and nothing really original out of that. So I don't know. it can't just stay in that in that state probably.
Tennessee is the next big rock state. Tennessee is pretty cool, actually. I've heard very good things about it from my friends in Dixie.
Well, bass guitarist, man, you got to be the force behind that, okay? You gotta lead the charge, okay? I know you're creating shad metal little by little. I want you to really blossom and take that genre into the stratosphere, okay? Bass guitarist coin is on Mars right now. You just got to wait for it. We're all in. We're investing in the bass guitarist coin. It's going to it's going to be the opposite of Sam Hyde coin. It's just going to be just total success.
What's new with Sam Hyde? Wasn't he going to fight someone?
I mean, we would like to, but it doesn't look like it, unfortunately. It's so disappointing, man. It would be like
great content.
It would be like historical content. It would be content that we would, reminisce about. And that is such a crime. That's like MDE getting canceled again. We really need. Yeah, let's go. Yeah. Can we get some 07s in chat for bass guitarists? We love this guy. I remember I woke up one morning, this guy's already live. I'm disheveled out of bed. And I gotta get in the chat, man. I gotta throw some love on bass guitarists. This guy, man. This is our American Yngwie. Our American.
Hopefully, well, no. Hopefully he's more open to donuts.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, we gotta be careful, man. Yo, let's go.
Well, Yngwie, can you have an American Yngwie? He's got a very European sort of self-indulgence about him.
I don't know. I like to think bass guitarist is like he's gonna revive Shrapnel Records. He's gonna take Marty Friedman. He's gonna take Vinnie Moore. He's gonna take all these people that did instrumental rock like Tony McAlpine, and he's sort of the new era, the new wave of American shad metal. That'll be the new Wabum. It'll be a new genre.
The white album.
There you go. Yeah, it'll be. People are gonna Google the Beatles album and they're not gonna be able to find it because we got our man. He's gonna. Oh man. Yo, for sure, man. I missed the last one too. I was looking on my feed somewhere and I missed the most recent one you did, but got to get in there. Klaus Schwab rock. So what would that look like exactly?
A great musical reset.
There's an Exciter album, or no, it's Raven, British. That's British, or is it Canadian?
Raven. I think they're British, right?
I'm thinking of Razor's Canadian. Raven's
Razor. Raven's British. Razor's
okay. They toured with Metallica. They have like that 2012 album called Extermination, and maybe that can be Klaus Schwab metal because it's literally a guy with a needle or a syringe rather on top of the planet. So that could be the Klaus Schwab genre. Everybody.
Dr.
Fauci. Go for
Dr. Fauci, give us vaccines metal.
He's gonna be Fauci
sheer heart attack.
Yeah. What wasn't somebody at Lollapalooza like from Goldman Sachs or something? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Doesn't ring a bell.
There was someone there was some like, financial like hedge fund guy who like introduced some music festival. Maybe Dr. Fauci could do that and sort of usher in this new genre.
Yngwie is based because he's a white, arrogant Chad shredder. Yeah, that's true. That's where Yngwie's charisma comes from. He's got the arrogance, but he sort of backs it up with the shredding.
Right. See, that's the thing. So he kind of, it's like a full package. You know what I mean? It's like if you're gonna be that arrogant, have the discography. And I think
yeah.
I think it kind of goes hand in hand. Also, yeah, that is very like just that sort of dominance,
Mm.
that presence. If you've ever seen him live, it's a very like prominent presence.
There's a
And
good
so
YouTube poop about Yngwie playing classical. See if I can find it.
man,
YouTube.
is that like the Shreds video? Like
Yeah, yeah.
English. Okay, okay.
See if I can find it. Well, Yngwie is sort of like he's like an old European aristocrat out of time. You know, he definitely sees himself as that sort of like 17th century guy.
Oh, maybe. That's
How
interesting.
he
That's sort of like
plays,
the path.
how he looks. He sort of looks like how the kings would look before the French Revolution. You know,
Oh, that is interesting.
some sort of like Saxon.
Well, that's kind of like one dynamic I've been like messing around hypothetically is like how Metallica, they not only betrayed their own genre, they betrayed their fans. And so it's a complicated thing because Metallica kind of helped create thrash. And so for them to be the
Into
ones,
radio rock.
yeah. So it's like it's sort of the opposite of what we're saying with Ingve. Like he's got the skills, and so he can be arrogant. I don't think you can have that same attitude if you also participate in the destruction of the genre. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying? So it's like it's very Shakespearean what Metallica did. I think
Well, yeah, the
cutting their
death. Once Cliff Burton died, once they cut their hair.
well, it's not just that because when they had Jason for a while, and
Jason's
even
cool, but they really shat on him. There's some psychological struggle underneath that.
you could kind of project some. I don't know. Maybe there's some themes there. There's some philosophical themes we could mess around with.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is good content. I know my father used to always shill. He used to always try to get me to watch that Some Kind of Monster documentary, which is a pretty good documentary
Yo, wait a
about
sec.
Sinanger. And
Where is
the album ended up being shit, but the story behind it is very fascinating.
No, it really says a lot. I pulled out two things.
It's a microcosm. It's the end of the 80s, even the end of the 90s, you know? Sort of post-Black Album. They're doing album covers that have common blood on it.
Ha 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 ha.
Let's go.
No, dude, this thing, dude. Okay, once again, Metallica being innovators. Once again, they created like one of the first like reality TV kind of things here with this. I mean, this is a
Yeah,
very
it's a lot more
personal.
raw than sort of the Osbournes are.
So it's like this is a weird band. They have their hands in all these different. They're like globalists. You know, they're totally taking advantage.
Talk about resistance to decentralization in the internet. Napster.
There's another one. There's another one. Yeah, decentralized media. Do you have a stance on that by any chance? I know that that's kind of divisive.
What do you mean? Just
Like Napster, is it really taking money out of these oligarchs'
no,
wallets?
I kind of sympathize with the. I mean, I pirate a lot of shit, so I sympathize with them. You know, it's no different to underground tape trading. That's how Metallica got big in the first place. So it is kind of hypocritical. Once again, Shakespearean. They sort of they see repeated what made them big, younger versions of themselves, and they decide to screw them over.
Maybe, yeah. It's
A lot of companies handle that with class, you know, like Mystery Grower Publishing. You know, they don't care. They'll post the LibGen links to their books. They don't give a shit if you download them. Or Hotline Miami. I think the game was banned somewhere, so they said, "Fuck it, just pirate it."
hey, how do I say your name, man?
Nebuchadnezzar.
I'm gonna say Neb.
I think
I'm
it's kind of
sorry.
like Nebuchadnezzar, you know, the king.
Oh, okay. LimeWire. It's funny. Livewire. I tried to volunteer. I tried to like become a writer for them, a contributor, and literally almost a year went by, and I got an email that said, "Hey, are you interested?" And it went through. It's like because they're connected to this other outlet, so I don't even know if it's really connected to Loudwire. It's probably just like a automatic email thing that you guys probably get. So that just kind of really tells you everything about Loudwire. And also, if you go onto their Twitter, I think they got a bunch of like, liberal shilling stuff on there. So
Well, a lot of metal journalism is kind of cocked. As what I was
Yeah,
talking about
dude.
earlier with the hipster takeover, like
Like Grace Kelly
all
from
these shitty
yeah.
sort of online e-zines that no one reads anyway, like Loudwires. There's another really obnoxious one that I'm blanking on. Well, it reminds me of what Frank Zappa said about rock journalism. People who can't talk, giving interviews to people who can't write, writing for people who can't read. It's kind of pointless. Just listen to the music. King Nothing is catchy. There was a good it was a good probably shouldn't say this. There was a good
Are you sure? Be careful. Be careful.
A certain TRS parody of the song King Nothing, which is quite funny.
They're all who is? Oh.
Wignat Metal. Well, I think metal appeals to the Reddit mindset on some level too, because there is this. You think of your average Redditor, the sort of autistic chronicling of albums and ranking them, the Anthony Fantano instinct. Because of metal's depth and complexity, it does attract sort of Redditors.
That's interesting.
Psychologically, that might be the case.
And maybe the identity of metal isn't totally political or cultural, so people sort of project this left-wing framework.
Well, like you were saying, there's elements of the right and the left in metal. Like you were saying the other week with Paul Fahrenheit and Thomas, there's the sort of rebellion against the satanic panic. So a lot of your atheist types, a lot of your culturally subversive types will enjoy metal because it's sort of sticking it to the man, Satanism, this sort of satanic liberalism that Doyle would talk about. But on the other hand, there's a right-wing aspect to metal. There's sort of black metal and upside down crosses and not burning crosses and Panzer Division, Marduk, Burzum. Definitely an extreme metal. Politically speaking, there's a lot of radical right energy there because it is hierarchical, it is misogynistic, it is sort of appealing to teenage boys' sensibilities.
Well, bass guitarist, to answer your question, what I'm doing is very autistic and unnecessary. So that's and I, if you told any of the bands that we've said, like half of our stuff, they probably wouldn't even. It's that meme of like when you watch a movie and film critics sort of try and figure out what it means when in reality the director just thought it looked cool. And
I was thinking of the English professor talking about the color of the door.
Oh, okay.
It's highly autistic. It's just natural, They try and reclaim metal from the Norwegian satanic guys. Yeah, definitely.
Although maybe with like we were saying with that writer Chuck that Jonathan Pohl was talking about, there's kind of an interesting way to talk about culture. And I said that like metal wasn't cultural. That's not true. But just there's kind of a way to make sense of maybe like broader topics by using metal as this vehicle to understand.
At the moment in time, it's very important for the 1980s, which itself is a very... The 80s but doesn't get a lot of love because everyone's more focused on the 60s and 70s or the 90s. Definitely as far as the history of as far as what we're interested in the history of the right, the 80s people sort of fast forward through. But culturally speaking, there's a lot going on. There's the sort of tensions of the Soviet Union, divisions within the Reagan admin, satanic panic, culturally speaking. Society continues to get more progressive with abortion, the pill. I know that's from the 60s, but it sort of really starts to be institutionalized in the 80s. It is an interesting decade. The aesthetic is very powerful. You were talking about Kai Schwemmer. Awarus did a stream on black metal. I have to check that out. He makes good content. Nice.
All right.
Get Varg on the show once he gets back on Twitter.
I don't know.
Thomas doesn't like him.
Oh, you said
and I can see why.
Well, it's just the pagan,
morally upstanding guy.
The pagan thing is just it's got to go, man.
Yeah. You worship a Jew on a stick. Yeah.
It's just.
Well, that's true. There's a lot of that. Well, Christian metal. Now, that's when metal is right wing, it's sort of anti-Christian. There are very few exceptions. Maybe Stryper, and some of the singers sort of convert to Christianity.
There's a lot of Christian metal. There's a lot of. It seems that kind of gets underreported. It's not just a handful of bands. There's a lot of.
But also, you think about the society that metal is reacting to, of sort of middle American Christian moral majority respectability. They're reacting against that Christianity, much like sort of British comedians in the 80s are reacting against Thatcher. So it's sort of has that anti-Christian element. But now that's outdated. Christianity is not a cultural force anymore. So people are returning to their roots. They're converting back. It's kind of cringe.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, learning from this like introspective.
Then again, you get something like Saxon's Crusader. So, kind of a cheesy album, but sort of that's tapping into English folklore because the Crusades are very important in English history. Candlemas is good.
See, like Skillet doesn't have to be like the standard. There's a lot of like heavier stuff. Like the one that comes to mind is Deliverance. That's one. And I'm blanking, but I remember just trying to get into the more Christian side of metal, and people like to use Stryper as like a caricature, but there's a lot of underrated stuff in the Stryper. Like some of their latter stuff is heavier than.
Yeah, Stryper is good. The new Stryper is quite good actually. It's a lot like the Judas Priest comeback. It's what some of the songs there are quite classic, yeah. But Stryper is good because even though they are Christians, that's not their only gimmick. They're actually a good band on their own merits. The Christianity thing might have even held them back in the day because it wasn't seen as radical enough. Rock was born in the post-war South, Pecker Woods. Yeah. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, that's like Elvis, Elvis is a...
There's a good account on Twitter, a very small account. It's like...
Oh, here, you could link it.
I'll link it.
I'm trying to...
I'll shill his account for him.
The Twitter Anons, man, I can't have enough respect for those guys. It's just...
Yeah, this guy is like an Elvis Anon.
Oh, dude, let's go.
I helped him blow up one of his tweets. Rock and roll sex god.
Wait a second.
And he had quite a big tweet. Had Elvis saying some pretty base shit. But Elvis, of course, is the ultimate Peckerwood. I loved Fallen. Yeah, Fallen's a good record. Good modern metal record.
All right. I don't want to stay up too late. So, appreciate this stream, man. We got into are you guys on Twitter? Yeah. Here, I'll here. Hold on a second.
Yeah, just pop them in chat.
Appreciate you guys stopping by at the Double R Diner. And let me get
Obama Garrick.
Gotcha. All right. Well, more than I expected. And of course, always got a shill bass guitarist. Thank you guys, man. Appreciate it. Oscar Toe. Neb, Record Deepness, man. I didn't see you in here. All you guys. Volt. What is it? Persona? Volt Persona. And Sly Cooper Socks. All you guys, man. All you guys. Oh, okay. There you go. Jonathan Pohl, of course. All right. Appreciate you guys as always. Grok, we got to have you back on. You're always good.
Love to
Always
come on.
good
It's good
with
fun.
of course, of course. So we'll be
Just have to shill the begriffsgeschichte.substack.com and the book I'm translating about denazification, characterwash.substack.com. Other than that, nothing else.
Yeah, if you guys follow the Twitter accounts, you can probably stay up to date with a lot of that stuff. Bass guitarist, you love this channel. I love bass guitarist and his God-given fingers shredding as always. And
That's right.
appreciate you guys for stopping by, man. Means a lot. We'll be back because I'm trying to plan something with Stephen Carson. I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter, kind of calling out Thomas a little bit on Rothbard. So we're gonna probably try and correct the record when our schedules line up. So I don't know if that'll be a stream. I'd like it to be a stream. It might be on Mind Phaser. And then me, Paul, and Thomas are gonna do a Mind Phaser soon, probably Monday, Tuesday-ish. And then I'm trying to line something up with Prudentialist. I want to do like a movie review with him. I don't know what his schedule is. I want everything to be work for the both of us. So we'll see. Those are some things, some housekeeping things happening moving forward. I think that's everything, if I'm not forgetting anything. So, all right. I think that's it. We'll be back soon. We'll be back next week. Since this week, I mean, it's West Coast. This week's about to end. So, should be back soon. Prue to be great. Yeah, we love Prudentialist. This guy is what is it? He's Rupert Kipling in the flesh. Back into our 21st century. So, thank you guys. Thank you guys for stopping by. Love all
Thanks,
you
everyone.
guys.
Have fun.
And have a great rest of your weekend.